Well, joining us now are two expert analysts from St Andrews University. In London is Dr. Omar Imady from the Centre for Syrian Studies, and in Dundee is the Professor of Strategic Studies, Phillips O'Brien. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Dr. Imady, America says this is a heinous chemical attack on innocent civilians. Russia says there's no proof it happened. What's your reading of the situation?
Well, obviously, under these circumstances, the idea of some type of smoking gun, these very actions are built in the difficulty of actually proving them in this categorical way. But one looks like the most likely type of evidence. And of course, all of this points repeatedly, as the UN has confirmed several times, to the Syrian regime.
Omar, what do you make of President Trump's reaction? He branded Assad an animal and is attacking Putin for supporting Assad, and Trump's promising an American response, sometime within the next 48 hours. What do you think that response will be?
Well, there will very likely be a response, but it very likely will not stop in any significant way the situation on the ground. We've been seeing a tragedy unfolding for the last 7 years, and we've seen what kind of, just last year around this time in April, there was a response. There was, the cruise missiles sent over the Syrian airbase. It didn't change much. These regimes don't respond to disciplinary measures. In fact, they become adamant at proving that, they did not learn any lessons from such an act.
Phillips, we could hear the American response as soon as tonight. Strong words from President Trump. Do you think he'll follow up with strong action?
Well, he'll do something, but as I said, it could be one attack with cruise missiles, which in and of itself will not achieve a great deal. I mean, the thing with Trump is he uses language, in a bombastic and overly aggressive way. And what he did with the Russian diplomats over the attack on Skripal, what actually turns out to be not nearly as aggressive a move as he first said. So he is using his aggressive language. He might launch an attack on some of Assad's forces, but it's unlikely to be a sustained campaign. And as Omar said, in and of itself, one attack will do nothing to change this extraordinary tragedy that is going on in Syria.
And Phillips, there's been an emergency meeting of the UN in New York tonight. Yeah. The American and Russian ambassadors have been trading insults. The American ambassador accused Russia of having the blood of Syrian children on its hands. The Russian envoy said the incident in Duma was staged and that US military action in response could have grave repercussions. Is what happens there important?
Well, it's sad what happens at the United Nations, but it's not important because it's not going to change what either country does. I mean, it's completely predictable that the Security Council will be irrelevant in this because the Security Council is born to be irrelevant if the permanent members don't agree. The United States and Russia both have vetoes. As such, the Security Council will play no role as they sit on opposite ends. It just, allows them both to take their positions and use their harsh rhetoric. I mean, to say something could have grave consequences is meaningless. That just means that anything could do anything.
Omar, do you think if there are military strikes, could Britain be involved? Will Britain be involved?
Doesn't seem likely at the moment. It seems very likely the French will be involved. And, once again, as Philip has mentioned, we don't really have any measures on, that are active in any way that are aiming at ending this. The Security Council is blocked, and anything we are talking about, at best, will perhaps be limited in nature and definitely not sustained. And again, it's important to keep in mind that, the idea that all of this is about, 70, 80, possibly 100 people dying from chemical weapons, dwarfs the fact that we've talking about 500,000 people killed through other ways. It's not, we become possessed by a modality of killing when the killing is taking place regardless. And I think it's important to keep that in mind as well.
No, of course. Phillips, to go back to that point about it, if there was military action, Omar says that the French mightn't get involved. What about the British? Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, I mean, it would be how they would get involved. You'd have to have aircraft deployed in the region. Again, this would be an aircraft kind of attack, so you'd have to have aircraft deployed in the region and be willing to launch them. I mean, Britain now is desperate to seem to...
It's about two expert analysts from St Andrews University.